What are we doing in the pre-pod?
I don't know what we're doing in the pre-pod. I have no banter whatsoever.
Have you got
no
any?
Jokes.
Is there no more knock jokes?
I have no more. I can't even say no more.
No more knock jokes.
I have nothing.
I've got some really good jokes, but I'm not going to tell it just now because I'm going to use one of them in the quiz.
All right, the company quiz. That
we're having a company quiz tomorrow.
Right. What I like about this,
tomorrow?
Yeah. What I like about this is that Chris has told us not to talk about Christmas, just to remind us that we're not talking about
Christmas. Literally, the first thing he did was talk about a company quiz. Oh, if we just pretend it's company quiz, not a Christmas quiz, then that gets round it. Okay.
We're doing our famous and most well-known January quiz. Every January we do a quiz. I love doing a quiz.
Kick off the year. Kick off 2021 with a good old-fashioned quiz. Company quiz. Anyway, so it's not Christmas.
No.
Definitely not.
No, it's not Christmas. It's timeless. What we've done is by introducing the concept of a quiz.
Luxury, we've made sure it's timeless.
Shut up and just play the music.
Hello and welcome to the Good Roundup. Good is a brand consultancy based in the UK, and from time to time, myself and my esteemed colleagues, Chris Lumsden,
Happy Christmas,
and Julian Murdoch,
Happy New Year.
We'll get together and talk about aspects of the world of branding. One aspect of branding that we want to talk about.
Chris is twitching already. Can't wait to get controversial with this one.
Is the notion of luxury branding, Chris?
Is it a thing?
No. Hate it. Does my head in.
Give us the preamble for this.
Well,
where does this come from?
It became a topic on its own after the brand bollocks thing. I don't know. It's just a thing that runs, and we've debated it a lot. And we've written pieces and stuff on it, and we've talked about it internally, and we all, I think, have a fairly good handle on it. But when it comes from the outside in, sometimes it begins to frustrate.
Crawls up its own arse a little
bit, and asks questions of us, and pulls at our beliefs of what branding is. And I've always really been one that's gone, I don't think it's a thing at all. I don't like to differentiate between branding and luxury branding. I think principles are principles, but for some reason it seems to be constantly coming back at us, saying this is a luxury brand. It's luxury, and that without that sense of clarity around what that actually means, and it feels like a bit of a lazy trope that we see a lot, and I think it's worth diving into and pulling apart because it does my head in a bit.
And when you we were doing some reading and musings on this in the run up to this, weren't we? And you actually being able to define it and is one of probably the most challenging aspects of it, isn't it? Because
I think it's the definition is an interesting thing, but it's when it becomes when those arbitrary rules are applied to the branding process in luxury. I think it becomes trite, cliched, and stereotypical.
I love luxury. Fucking love it.
Your middle name. Stuart Luxury Steel.
I'm all about the luxury. So just to be clear, the luxury area of the world of business and everything else, and luxury branding being two separate things to a degree. So if you look at luxury as a segment, I think it's a fascinating one because it's confusing and nobody knows. And I think where it gets, once you actually try and work out a definition of luxury, which is very difficult, it's difficult for a number of ways. It's culturally difficult. It's what is it now? Is it expensive? Is it rarity? Is it accessible luxury? What I think it's just really endlessly fascinating. But then when you move it into branding, I think what happens is there's some.
You're right, and you add on different prefixes to like it's accessible luxury.
Yeah,
what does that actually mean?
Off. Yeah. So and I think because nobody knows what it is, but what's interesting about luxury is it's used as a word and interesting in marketing and branding because it's a bit of alchemy. How can we get something that costs $50 to manufacture, and then by slapping, from a branding perspective, luxury on it, we can sell it for 500, put some gold on it, and then we've got some 500. I think that's what's kind of really interesting about it. I think luxury is fascinating. Fascinating.
I read a quote, or it was a quote in an article, which said consumers define what luxury means, not brands with their marketing efforts. which I think is probably
I like that.
sums it up. Because
Yeah,
it does,
and
I think, as a concept, it exists in the mind of the consumer, and it can mean different things to different people, and it can mean different things in different categories across different cultures to different demographics.
100%. From the ground up, it's determined, isn't it? Not from the top down necessarily. And you made the point, Stuart, I think, what is luxury, and you're right. And because stuff like chocolate biscuits can be deemed to be luxurious in that category because they've got chocolate on them. So, does that mean we charge more and have some artisan looking packaging on it? And hey, we can charge a lot more. And that's fine. But it becomes a problem, I think, when marketeers or businesses chase it for the sake of trying to charge more money. Yeah. It becomes totally false. And you're absolutely right, Jules. Your point is that the consumer will decide whether they're willing to pay £4.50 for some biscuits rather than £1. There's
the whole the whole point about higher price can actually drive demand up rather than down if it's perceived as a luxury good and thereby it's a desirable item that gives some sort of status and all that kind of thing. But I think even within all of that, there still has to be some underlying principles in terms of product quality and performance and and that's where it gets a bit messy, doesn't it? In terms of what are the things that make up that definition. But I think there has to be an acceptance, but the luxury brands have to be you should be top of the class. Just sticking a gold badge on it and making it really expensive. It's back to the point we made the other day. You might sell it once, but you're not going to sell it again when someone realizes it's a cheap piece of tat, or if the experience isn't reflective of that kind of price point.
And you were saying earlier, Stuart, about the fact that it seems to be a driving force in commerce now, that everything kind of, this sense of scarcity. It's like, well, if these big, giant corporate organizations that deem to be luxury companies are looking to sell more and more and more and more, and it's the function of a share price, I suppose, at the end of the day. Yeah. Is that a luxury thing? Can everything become luxury?
Doing the little bit of research that I've done, I mean, obviously, when you go back to the old days, luxury was based on Fendi was a furrier. Is that the word? Furrier. So, I mean, that's what they were originally. I can't remember who it was. LMV.
Louis Vuitton were luggage.
Yeah, and Sadler's, there was other. So, I mean, you kind of go back to that.
They had individual craft.
And there was the craft and then built
houses.
And so it was small, and especially I think the French definition was a small thing that was really beautifully made. That was a luxury.
Yeah.
As opposed to there. As that's kind of gone on, luxury is almost a must-have thing. So you must have it. So I mean, the definitions of what is luxury is interesting, because Bain & Co. define luxury as a premium product sold at a premium price at a premium place. So the whole thing. But then you get into the question, well, can you define premium for me, please?
And that's something we've had lots of conversations about over the years. You do. And we've had, and I think drinks brands, we've worked with a lot of whiskey brands over the years, or did historically, and we had a lot of, I remember sitting in lots of boardrooms having lots of conversations about whether we were using the word premium or luxury, and actually, what the fuck is the difference?
I just lose the plot at that point. I think, what's the point of this? And this is, I guess this brings me onto the issue, which is when it's positioned as a separate discipline, that there's this esoteric layer of, if you don't understand luxury branding, and if you have to ask the difference between premium and luxury, then clearly you don't know what you're doing. But in actual fact, it's that the emperor's not got any clothes on. You're going, well, what is the difference here? And to claim that it's some sort of elevated form of what we do, I find professionally insulting and just utter nonsense. Discuss.
Yeah. Well, I think that when we talked about it earlier, didn't we? Touched on it. The same when it comes to branding, luxury branding or otherwise. The same principles of what will build a brand and create a powerful brand and a successful brand apply, whether it's luxury or whether it's, you made the point, whether it's Ryanair or Rolex.
Love it.
Oh, you like that, yeah? A wee bit of alliteration.
Yeah.
He loves a bit of alliteration. Is it Bond or Borat? That's another one he's chucked in recently.
These are good. Please carry on using my example.
It was so good. I thought I would take it for myself. But no, the point about distinctive brand assets, creative distinctive brand assets, and an investment in brand and building brand over time and creating that experience, a consistent experience wherever it is, online, offline, retail experience, digitally, whatever that may be. It's those same building comms and messaging and experiences on a solid set of values. All of those principles apply in whether you're a £500,000 a high performance sports car or
Yeah, you got to do your time.
It's £100 pair of Nikes, yeah.
I think when you look at luxury branding, there is a lot of positives in it. And I think
Explain.
Yeah, cue face. Listeners, I'm getting a disdainful look. I think good luxury branding can teach anyone. So to your point of chocolate,
I know the formula.
Yeah. No, but it's not necessarily. It's a formula, perhaps, but I still think, but behind the formula, you still got to have good things. So, for example, you're mentioning your discussion about chocolate biscuits can be luxurious. It's the attributes, because a chocolate biscuit is not luxurious unless it's a Belgian chocolate biscuit. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, you just
and
wrap
it's the attributes. It's the
all the
attributes.
intangibles are wrapped
Yeah,
around
it's
it.
all
Of
that,
course.
and so it's understanding that all the keys, like for whatever reason, we know Belgian chocolate's good chocolate. You slap it on a biscuit. For
No, it is, but I think it's more complicated than that. You know,
I would agree.
it's-
I would
you gotta
agree.
think about that unboxing experience. When
I
the
would
biscuit
agree.
unboxing
I
experience is
would
very important.
absolutely agree. It's the whole thing. But and the other thing about it is that the brands, the luxury branded houses, have been fantastic in maintaining storytelling, because that is really the job of a luxury brand. It's to tell the story. So all
Is
the
that not
assets.
really the job of any brand?
I as I said, I think there's a lot that luxury branding can teach you. You know, the really good ones can actually teach any brand how to do it really well.
And on the teaching front, here's how you do it, right?
Okay.
What you get, right? And I'd say that this is actually easier.
Can we just ask all of the creative team who may be
Listen up.
listening to just close your ears right now?
Listen up. So I think I go so far as to say, to be controversial, it's easier to create a luxury brand than to create an ordinary type of brand, because there's a formula. All you need is a nice, big, clear, simple, probably Helvetica or some bit of type, right?
Sans serif.
Yeah, beautiful. Big, solid, bold. Make it big so that those that have got bad eyesight can see it. And then get either lots of black, right? Have white coming out of black, or just get a picture of somebody or something. If it's not a person or a celebrity, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some
Somebody that
movie
looks
star,
very cool.
who's ideally not done anything dodgy in the last 3 or 4
Yeah,
months,
that's
because
good.
they can end
You're
up in
writing
jail.
this down, aren't you, Jules?
Yeah.
I'm writing all of it down.
Put the type
Send it
across the
over.
picture. If it's a picture, make it really obscure, because it's that club that you don't have access to. So everyone else that's looking at it that gets luxury knows what that picture's about. So it's that obscure sense of this is an exclusive club. Do that, and if it's appropriate, throw in a little bit of French. Like
Mhm.
instead of saying aftershave, write parfum.
Oh my God.
Right? Throw in a wee bit of
Oh
French.
my word.
Boom, there's your luxury brand. That's how you do it. It's about 4 steps.
No.
And-
I mean, I know you're being provocative to make the point, and I'll give you that. But I would say that it's easier to some degrees, because what you're doing is selling a dream to somebody, going, wouldn't you like this watch? Isn't this a good watch? I think there's an element. So I don't think it's just about
Wouldn't you like to be staring into the distance with that kind of meaningful look in your eye, with a sunset and a dog or a river
It's hard to.
on a perhaps perched on a stone?
I
looking
think
across
it's
a sea.
it's clearly easier to slag it off than to look at the positives of it. Clearly, but I do think there are some things that you can take and go, if you're going to take the best out of luxury brands, and some of them are really good at doing their 2-tier stuff and everything else. There's winemakers who sell wine at €500 and then they've got one at €50, and that's considered a good entry point. So you're waiting to jump in, because so please, Chris, jump in.
The parfum.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Where do we go with this? I think what a lot of because you're obviously talking about advertising and that, you know, and I think within the advertising space, spectrum, whatever, what luxury brands probably do better than a lot of others is that we've talked about this challenge a lot, about where the lack of brand building means you're trying to do the brand and product job all in one communication. I would argue that a lot of those luxury brands are so established in the space that people know what they are, and they know what they know them for. So all they're doing is just
building their
placing that
brand.
and they're just staying front of mind. They're just saying this is, you know, here's our brand and here's our product. They're not doing any other
You're right.
explaining around it.
And
I think that's to be admired to a degree.
I am being facetious, but to me, but the point is, you're right.
And what they're not doing is trying, and because what they're not trying to do is portray a realistic lifestyle. They don't think that people that are consuming that product are going to sit on a rock draped in whatever, But
if you look at for the likes of Chanel, interestingly, it's very, very basic. The square label, the black type.
So it's arguably a very distinctive brand asset.
Correct. And what is interesting, and one of the things that I think is forgotten by maybe the wider community is that that's been like that for decades, and they've built that as an asset, and it is what it is. It's not drowned in gold, it's not finished in foils, and it's just beautifully simply done. And they've built the awareness of that asset over the years. So you're right, their advertising is designed to reinforce that asset, the white out of black, the number 5, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, all of a long time, you have a brand and you have equity and you have value. And I think
that's why you can justify that higher price point.
There is nothing inherently luxurious about the way it's branded. It has cut through and it's got a quality product, or from a house, as you said, Stuart, it's got the legacy and it's been built over years. It's actually quite a simple formula.
Well, you
but
say
what,
that, yeah.
What happens is we get briefs that say we need to shortcut this and we want to be luxury from the get-go. And the way to do that is to cover it in gold or finish it in this and do X, Y, and Z, because that's
luxury.
That's the conspicuous consumption method, and that's how it's seen, particularly seen in the Far East. That's how it works. Job done. Tick the box.
I would disagree with that somewhat, though, using your parfum example.
Parfum.
In that if you go, if you buy, and I'm trying to think of a bottle of cheap perfume. What's cheap? King in a Million, which is sitting on the shelf.
Where's that from?
From
H&M. B&M.
No, it's definitely not
B&M.
from H&M. It's not B&M. I think it's from TJ Hughes.
Oh.
TJ.
Other fashion houses are available.
or maybe the Pound Shop. Can't remember. Anyway, but there's nothing particularly luxurious about the elements of that brand. Now, in terms of identity, yeah, you're right. It's very understated. It's very simple. It's very recognisable, and they've built a lot of equity in that. But in terms of the quality and the finish of the materials, the bottle, the stopper, the interior of the pack, that's all part, you're dismissing it. Well, I'm not saying you're dismissing it. Well, you are slightly, because you said there's nothing luxurious about it, but there is clearly an element to that as a kind of...
I couldn't agree more. Well, it becomes an experience then. And I do, you're right. I mean, joking apart, the whole, someone mentioned unboxing earlier, that all of these touch points all add up.
Stuart will say it was him, but it was actually...
I was deconstructing that, graphically from that advertising point of view, which, let's face it, and, we'll come on and talk about digital, but it's disproportionately important.
Yeah.
And there's so much rip-off stuff out there that it does come down to that experience and being able to know this stuff is the real deal because of the way it's boxed.
Yeah. Does it feel like a nice piece of molded board inside, or is it a bit of cheap corrugated plastic? You know what I mean? Like that's, it's not rocket science, clearly. But that's what justifies
that has been part of their formula up until now, which is, reliant on the experience, which is retail-led, beautiful experiences in high streets of big cities and in certainly Europe and the States. That's the model, wasn't it? That's how they work. In fact, I was talking to a client the other day who was saying that some of the Chinese consumers, the reason a large proportion of them come to the UK and Paris is to go to these shops and buy the product there because they know it will be the real product because there's so much of it that's rip off in the Far East, which is interesting in itself. But they cultivate and curate experiences, and that's been their MO up until now, from the unboxing to the going into a shop. I know the tricks they use because I've been in and bought a couple of things.
Oh, aye.
It's the old guy in a suit and you get a glass of champagne and you get to sit down. Well, they relieve you of a lot of money. And
I'm okay with that if they're giving me champagne at the time, though, to be fair.
But what has been interesting, and again, is that transition that they've had to make, and we're talking about digital, but because that's a channel that they have
I think this is an interesting conversation.
Yeah. And because digital central to our proposition, what's the thoughts there then?
When you think this is an interesting one, I think, because we talk about digital being disproportionately important. You mentioned earlier for most brands, because for a lot of consumers, majority of customers, that's your first touch point. That's your first engagement with that brand. But I I would argue that, or not argue, but suggest perhaps that in the luxury branding or the luxury goods, whatever you want to call it, space, that the opposite is probably the case, where the retail, certainly historically, the retail environment and the purchase experience is disproportionately important than necessary. So when, how does that, like, and particularly now in the world of COVID, where shops are shut now, and a lot of, how do you behave? How do you recreate that kind of very tactile, tangible brand experience that online? Yeah, how do you do it digitally? Can you do it credibly in a digital space?
I mean, what Chanel do really well, if you look at their Instagram, is that they don't ever show you the full product. It's always a certain aspect of the craft of the product. So you'll get either a distance shot, so you'll just see the silhouette, or you'll get a close-in shot where you'll see the material, but you won't actually just get to see the product as in even a stylish H&M shot on the site. There's always an aspect which makes you interested, which goes to the site, which then tells you the story, which then tells you about the product, which then says, if you want this, you have to you've got to go on the pilgrimage. We're not easy. We are.
You have to give yourself up for it.
There is a bit of work that you can do to get to that. So I think it's quite, they have used digital as the primary channel to help them tell their story.
Yeah.
And
because there is something sort of incongruous about choosing a product and dropping it in a shopping cart and checking out in the way that you do in Amazon Prime for something to arrive tomorrow for something that's, I think, in several thousands of pounds. It doesn't feel the same, does it?
No, and I think that's the difference between kind of basic stuff versus luxury stuff. I think for the majority of people, we talk, again, when we were talking about brand behaviours and how brands need to kind of be set up digitally, it's about taking a lot of the friction out of that journey and making the path to purchase as frictionless and simple as possible. In this case, I think, but again, it's driven by the consumer that, I've got a friend at the moment who's looking to buy a very expensive handbag. She's going to treat herself. Now, she's done a lot of research online, so the digital space still absolutely has a role to play, but she's good, and she could purchase online, but she wants to wait until she can go to House of Frasers or wherever, or go to the store and touch it and speak to the, embrace that experience. And you're going to buy it, you're going to go out of your way.
She just wants a glass of champagne.
She wants a glass of
champagne. Fair play.
Probably. But you're going to go, in that champagne instance, you're going to go out of your way. You're to add more steps to your customer journey by physically going to a store versus taking the more convenient option of just doing it online. And I think that's something that potentially only exists in the premium or luxury space, because arguably a car would be part of. And Lawrence Stroll from Aston Martin, we're doing some work with a leather company at the moment. He was talking about restoring their luxury brand credentials at Aston, reverting back to some of those basic luxury brand principles around, and obviously for them, one of which was always manufacturing one less than demand, and crucially making sure that the experience feels special, feels luxurious from beginning to end. And that's taking customers into the pits and 6-star, they're called 6-star hospitality spaces, these kind of things. And it's all about,
I've been at 7-star.
The experience, and how important that is versus just the kind of transaction of the
And again, looking at what luxury can teach other brands, it's knowing the customer. They know.
There he goes.
Here he goes.
He's just brought the whole thing together.
That's why he is the shark.
Yeah. I mean, but that's it. I mean, they know their customer, and they know that.
Do you think he's Rolls Royce or Ryanair?
No, he's more like what's the wee yellow van that only fools and horses drive? Robin Reliant. He's more Robin Reliant than Rolls Royce.
Independent traders.
Happy to be here. Just happy to be here.
Sorry, Stuart. You brought it back to customer.
No, I've just brought it back to customer, because that's what they do. They know their customer. They know that they don't want to buy online. They know that the experience of hitting a checkout button is not the same as, come in and there's, somebody relieving you in a shop. People just want the experience. That's what they want. So we decided that it's a good thing then,
What, the luxury branding?
Yeah. Have we changed your mind to say that actually the fundamentals are there and are solid and are, as you said, time tested, and there is a formula to it, but it's
yeah. And I think, like we talk about with whether it's different categories or what it may be, I think in the luxury space there are arguably conventions that are expected. They're from the consumer around quality and maybe craftsmanship and exclusivity, not necessarily in terms of it being rare or scarce, but even in terms of part of a club that I feel part of and feel part of our
Ownership,
community
yeah.
or whatever, that's, you know, kind of based on shared values and beliefs, again, like we talked about before when it came to segmentation, you know, that kind of timeless storytelling heritage aspect. I think there's, you know, those are credible, real things that people expect from something that would sit and live in the luxury space. Every time I say luxury, I feel like I need to do the air
Luxury.
quotes.
Luxury. But then I think the challenge is, and why you have an aversion to it, Chris, is that people coming up and going, it's...
Yeah. Do you
It's a
understand the
secret.
Do you
luxury?
understand
Yeah.
it?
And come back. My frustration is about the just the whole lot of nonsense that's spoken about it from a brand point of view and branding and the process, and us as practitioners in that, and understanding how that works, whether it is Ryanair or Rolex, I think is frustrating, but it's endlessly interesting because the definition. You can't define luxury. It's like happiness or something like that. You know,
And I think
it's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, well, and I think that's just, you know, much less articulately what I was going to say. I think the frustration is brand people who think that they determine and define what luxury is versus it being something that lives within the mind of their consumer.
Yes, they'll be no brand people. Consumers will be the judge of that.
I like it, Chris. I think we're done.
It was a bit of a rant, wasn't it?
That was good, though.
A rambling
It was good.
ramble
It was
chat.
A
fun.
rambling, wine roaming.
Right, so,
Chit-chat.
right, back to the
So-
January quiz, yeah.
What is the L? What does the L stand for in a January BLT?
See, that's an interesting question. Low fat.
I applaud.
Lettuce is low fat.
I applaud. Right,
Cheerio.
bye.
Bye.